A college campus filled with laughter, friendships, and dreams in the making. But for one young man, the experience will take a different turn. He sits on a quiet bench, watching others, hopeful yet unsure. His heart carries a fragile trust, a longing to belong. Yet sometimes love can be twisted into something sharp, something that cuts deep. When affection is taken for granted, when trust is played with, the wounds it leaves behind don't easily fade. This is a story of heartbreak, betrayal, and the price one pays when dreams of love are crushed in the most unexpected ways. In the vibrant college courtyard, a young man stands quietly, his gaze following a girl who seems worlds apart from him. She's surrounded by friends, her laughter echoing in the space, yet for a brief moment, their eyes meet. He feels a flutter of hope as she returns, as she smiles, a warmth he's rarely known in a place where he often feels invisible. This moment, simple as it is, fills him with a new sense of belonging, of being seen. He believes, maybe for the first time, that someone truly understands him. In his mind, this could be the beginning of something real, a chance to rewrite his story. But love in a world like this isn't simple. It often becomes tangled in expectations, judgments, and hidden intentions. Little does he know this seemingly innocent connection will soon take a turn he never anticipated. At first, everything felt like a dream come true for him. The boy would have always felt like an outsider, found something he'd never thought he'd have, someone who made him feel valued, understood, and even special. She seemed to truly care. They would stroll around the campus, sharing stories, laughing together, and getting lost in conversation. They studied side by side in the library, passing notes filled with jokes and encouraging words. Their laughter could be heard echoing down the quiet halls. To him, every moment felt real, each shared glance or small touch like a promise of something lasting. In his heart, he began to believe that he found someone who could see past the insecurities he carried for so long. She gave him a sense of purpose, of belonging, something that had always felt out of reach. When she smiled at him, he felt a lightness he'd never experienced before. This connection was more than friendship to him. It was hope. But as the weeks passed, something began to change. It was subtle at first, a missed lunch here, an excuse there. She would text him late at night, but cancel plans during the day. He started noticing the shift, a slight coolness in her tone that hadn't been there before. He tried to ignore it, convincing himself that maybe she was just busy or stressed. However, things only seemed to get worse. One day, as he walked across campus, he spotted her with her friends. They were laughing loudly, her voice carrying above the rest, but something felt wrong. He recognized the laughter that usually filled him with joy, yet this time it wasn't directed toward him in kindness. He drew closer, he caught fragments of their conversation, pieces that stung more than he could have imagined. They were talking about him. Every word, every mocking gesture revealed the painful truth. She had never taken him seriously. To her, this relationship was nothing more than a joke, a passing amusement to entertain herself and her friends. It was as if the ground had fallen out from under him. All the moments he'd cherished, every laugh, every shared glance, and nothing more than part of her game. His heart felt like it had been shattered into 1,000 pieces, each one carrying the weight of her betrayal. He had trusted her, given her his hopes, his vulnerability. What he thought was genuine affection was simply a way for her to gain acceptance, to fit in with her friends by treating him as an object of ridicule. He was left not only heartbroken but humiliated. The joyful connection he once believed in now tarnished by her thoughtless cruelty. The days went by, the boy couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. He'd catch glimpses of the girl he cared so deeply for, now always in the company of her friends. He would glance at him, then turn away, stifling laughter as if he were the punchline to a joke he didn't understand. Her messages became sparse, their once lively conversations now reduced to curt responses, excuses, and silence. The warmth that once radiated between them seemed to vanish, replaced by an unfamiliar coldness. Still, he held on to the hope that it was just a phase, something that would pass if he could just find a way to bridge the growing distance between them. He replayed their memories, trying to understand where things might have changed, wondering if he had done something to push her away. He told himself that maybe she was just stressed, that it was college life waiting on her. But deep down, a part of him knew that something precious was slipping through his fingers. One day, he mustered the courage to approach her during class, hoping to break through the tension and rekindle what they once had. As he walked up to her, heart pounding, he tried to smile, but her reaction made his steps falter. She looked at him, barely hiding her disinterest, and forced a dismissive smile that sent a chill through him. Her friends watched, some overly smirking as she brushed him off, making it clear she had no time for him. He felt his cheeks flush, the embarrassment creeping over him as he turned away, avoiding their stares. And then, one afternoon, he overheard her speaking with her friends in the hallway, her words piercing through him like a wound. She told them loud enough for him to hear that he was nothing like the guy she'd ever consider being with. Her words were harsh, dismissive, painting him as little more than a joke, someone she could never truly care about. Each word, each mocking tone drove the reality of her betrayal deeper into his heart. He felt humiliated, reduced to nothing but a foolish boy who had dared to hope for more. The laughter from her friends filled his ears as he walked away, each step feeling heavier than the last. The dreams he had woven, the trust he had placed in her, all felt torn apart, leaving him with nothing but a sense of loss he couldn't put into words. She'd made a fool of him, and now, no matter how much he wished to forget, he was left carrying the weight of her words and the scars of a trust broken beyond repair. As he sat in his small dorm room, the once cozy space now felt hollow, weighed down by memories he could no longer bear. His belongings were scattered, half-packed, as if they too resisted the finality of his departure. Books, once full of promise, lay abandoned on the desk, their pages untouched, symbols of dreams he had held close and now had to leave behind. His clothes, his notebooks, even his photos seemed to remind him of everything he was giving up, and each item seemed to tug at his heart, making the decision all the more painful. The betrayal had been overwhelming. The girl he had trusted, the one person he thought might understand him, had shattered his world. He thought college would be his escape, a place where he could finally belong, but now it was a place of haunting reminders of the heartbreak and rejection that felt too heavy to carry. Staying here meant constantly facing his failure, being reminded of his own vulnerability and the painful truths he discovered. In silence, he packed his things, his movements slow, almost reluctant, as though a part of him still hoped that things could change. But he knew he couldn't continue in a place that had turned so bitter. Each item he put into his bag felt like saying goodbye not only to his college life, but to a piece of himself he had once valued. The boy who had arrived full of hope, eager to build a future, was now leaving with shattered dreams and a heart burdened by loss. He left the room. He glanced around one last time, taking in the space he had called home. The silence felt almost heavy, echoing the emptiness he felt inside. Down the hall, he caught sight of her. She was with her friends, laughing, carefree, almost oblivious to the pain she had caused. For a brief moment, their eyes met, and she glanced away, showing neither remorse nor regret, as if he had become nothing more than a passing memory. Without a final word, without a goodbye, he stepped out of the dorm, leaving behind the dreams that had once driven him forward. He left behind the classes he had studied for, the friendships he had tried to make, and the future he had dared to envision. Walking away, he felt the weight of everything he was losing, a future cut short, hopes that would never come to life. And as he stepped off campus for the last time, he knew that the boy who had once been full of aspirations was gone, replaced by someone carrying the scars of broken trust. The life he could have had was lost, leaving him with nothing but memories and a profound sense of heartache. Years passed and life moved forward, but for him it had never truly recovered. He was older now, worn down by experiences that had taken a toll on his health and spirit. The spark that once lit up his eyes had faded, leaving behind only traces of the young man who once dreamed of making something of himself. Instead of pursuing his ambitions, he found himself in a low-paying job, one that neither fulfilled him nor allowed him to thrive. Days became routine, and he worked through them, each one blending into the next without promise or excitement. The boy who once walked a college campus with dreams of a bright future was now someone barely recognized by those who knew him. Opportunities that might have led him to success were long gone. The pain of betrayal he endured years ago left wounds that time never fully healed. He had tried to push forward to rebuild a life he once envisioned, but without support or hope. Those efforts slowly faded, replaced by an acceptance of a quieter, diminished existence. On the city streets where he worked, few people noticed him. His story had drifted from memory, a tale left untold like so many others who struggled and faded quietly into the background. One day, he simply wasn't there anymore. The world barely paused to acknowledge his absence, but for a brief moment the camera focuses on an empty street corner, a place where he once spent his days. A small plaque marks the spot, a reminder of someone who had once held so many dreams, now reduced to a memory. His story ended not with the triumph he once envisioned, but with a quietness, a life unnoticed by the world. And as the camera pulls away, it leaves viewers with a sense of loss. A life that might have held so much promise, left incomplete. A story of dreams that slipped away, unfulfilled. The campus looks the same, students walking by, immersed in laughter and conversation, unaware of the lives and stories that came before. The camera gently moves to an empty bench, a quiet spot that once held a young boy, hopeful and full of dreams, now just a memory. He once sat there, watching the world, believing he belonged. Yet words and actions chipped away at his confidence, leaving marks that never truly healed. The bench stands as a silent reminder of what was lost, a life reshaped by pain and rejection, choices that could never be undone. In the end, it takes so little to be kind, to choose words that lift rather than wound. For some, even small words have lasting weight. Remember, kindness costs nothing but can change everything. Be thoughtful, be compassionate, and always consider the effect you may have on someone else's journey.